Hello, today I'll be interviewing Senior Master Angel Munoz. Master Munoz owns Angel's Black Tiger Martial Arts and Fitness in Cathedral City, California. He has been featured in numerous books, videos, and magazine articles. He is in multiple martial arts Hall of Fames, including the prestigious Martial Arts History Museum Hall of Fame. He is head of the traditional Unga Kuen Kung Fu Association, which has affiliated instructors in schools worldwide, including the Idaho and Hawaii UKKA. Master Munoz's Unga Kuen is the official Kung Fu of UKKA. Thank you for supporting UKKA and being one of our ambassadors. We also want to thank you for doing this interview and sharing your time with me in the UKKA community.
That's awesome. Thank you, honey.
How did you get into martial arts and what was the beginning like?
Well, I started martial arts when I was about 5 or 6 years old. I was a very hyper kid. We used to get in trouble all the time. So my dad had a friend, and he took me over to his kung fu school, and that's how I started the journey in kung fu. I have not stopped practicing ever since. Actually, he's the one who kind of make me kind of settle down a little bit, because like I said, I was too hyper. So yes, I started practicing since I was 5 years old. Right now, this year, I'm going to be 55, the big 55. Wow.
Where did most of your training take place?
Well, part was in Mexico, Ensenada, Mexico. Once I was a little bit older, I moved up here to the States, and I started practicing with Master Douglas Wong for 5 years. Then I practiced with Master Eric Lee for another 5, 6 years. And then I practiced with Grandmaster Semigma about, I want to say maybe 30 years, 35, 25 years, 30 years. So, I'm still here kicking.
How has your martial arts helped you in your everyday life?
Oh my goodness. Well, to tell you the truth, everything is an interpretation, right? When you practice martial arts, if you try to put your training into everyday life, it really is supposed to be like that, but a lot of people don't connect those dots. So when you start practicing, let's say your horse stance or your punches or your push-ups that you cannot do more, basically what martial art is giving you that mental toughness to follow through with whatever you need to follow through with. When you apply it to life, that's exactly the same thing. Sometimes you have to go through those hard moments. And if you reflect on your training, obviously that helps you out to move along or to be a little bit more, have that mental toughness on your training.
What is your favorite story about Grandmaster Morgan?
Whew, oh my goodness. I have a couple of them actually. One time we went to do a martial art demo in a community center. We were both young, and obviously the energy was really active. And me and him, we were outside. I don't know if he remembers this, but we were outside of the community center talking, and we were seeing who was coming to do a demo. And sometimes you have martial artists that really don't practice that much. They do it every other day or do it for the weekend. As you know, Master Morgan, he practiced pretty much all the time. That's part of his life. And the same way with me. So we practice pretty much everything. And whatever you used to throw us at that time, we used to react and respond right away. So these martial artists came over, and he was doing some self-defense techniques, but uh, every self-defense technique that he was doing, he was hurting himself, and then he was hurting his classmate, the person that he was helping. And the funny thing is that me and Master Morgan, we didn't say anything. We just look at each other, and just with our eyes, we could tell that this guy didn't know anything. And obviously, I want to say maybe out of sympathy, we kind of pat his back and to this gentleman, and we said, "You did really good." But but then after that, we said like, "Oh my God, what happened with this guy?" But that was one of the funniest thing. The other thing, it was we one time to eat. The waitress came up and asked us what we wanted to eat, and she had something on her nose, and And he didn't want to say anything, and I didn't want to say anything. And every time that she was moving, you can see that little something on her nose moving wherever she was moving. And after she left, he looked at me and says, "How come you didn't say anything?" And I said, "Well, how come you didn't say anything?" He said, "Well, I'm embarrassed." Well, I'm embarrassed too. So, so there you go. Two little things that I remember very that it comes to my mind real quick. One with martial arts, and one having a relaxed time, having some dinner, and then the waitress came in and did the extra show there for a bit.
What is your favorite story about Senior Master Siegfried?
Oh, I didn't hear you. What was that?
What is your favorite story about Grandmaster Siegfried? Or not Grandmaster, sorry, Senior Master Siegfried.
Well, when we were young, we used to compete a lot, all the time. The funny thing is, sometimes he used to win, and sometimes we used to win. I used to win. The funny thing also is that sometimes we used to see the weapon that each one what we were doing, and we knew who was going to win. Oh my God, he got the daggers. Oh my goodness, he has a chain whip. That type of thing. The funny thing also, and the really motivating thing though, is that the type of energy that we both had, it was a very friendly, but at the same time competitive energy. Nothing negative. Nowadays you go and compete, and you got kind of give the karate look to the other guy, and then I want him to win. But every time it was a legit thing. Every time that he used to win, we used to always shake hands and big hug, and we used to clap, and we used to be very happy for each other. So that's one of the things that I always remember. That is very rare now to see in martial arts.
What is your overall favorite martial arts memory?
Uh, Honestly, the first day that I started practicing kung fu. Like I mentioned to you, I was very hyper. So when my dad came and dropped me off at the school, I was kicking, and I didn't want to stay there. I was pulling my dad's shirt, I remember, and I just threw a fit. I remember that I lay on the ground crying because I didn't want to stay in the kung fu class. My dad left the teacher back in that day. It was a closed door type of training. So the teacher closed the door, and when he as soon as closed the door, the energy changed totally. So obviously, I stopped crying. I stopped throwing a fit. And Seafood tells me, "Get up." And I got up. And he says, "You're going to stay in horse dance." And at that time, I didn't know what it was horse dance. I said, "Horse dance." And I said, "Where's the horse?" That's the first thing that I said to him. And he just looked at me, he moved his head, and he said, "You're going to do two mountains." And he put me on a square horse, simulating the two mountains. Um, Kid you not, I want to say that maybe he left me like that for 2 or 3 weeks every time I used to train. That was the only thing I used to do. So obviously that got embedded in my head for the rest of my life, So when I have new students and I see sometimes they're a little bit hyper, the first thought is, the first memory comes into my head is exactly that. I said, I wish I could do that. But obviously times have changed, so you cannot train like that anymore. So, but yes, that's one of my memories or things that I remember the most.
What does your black sash mean to you?
Ooh, well, that means the representation of all my teachers. They have passed me the knowledge. It reminds me of my hard work, my dedication. Depending on the type of line of work that you do, that's how you hold very dearly, right? So let's say if you have a gardener and the weed eater breaks, for him is devastation because that's his line of work. He needs to have that, or a dentist, or so on and so forth. In martial arts, if we really are dedicated to our art, sometimes we feel something is missing if we don't wear our sash or our belt on our training. Some of us, we get very jealous on how we use the belt or how the student uses the belt. If the belt is dragging the floor, or the belt, or they sweep or they wipe their sweat with the belt, that type of thing, sometimes we get very irritated. Sadly to say that the value, everybody has a different type of value when it comes to the belt, depending on where you're coming from. And for me, every time I see my belt, the first thing I remember is all my trainings, all my teachers, all the lessons that every teacher gave me, and make me the person that I am right now. And hopefully I will have the opportunity to pass that feeling also to my students when they wear the belt. Obviously the knowledge is not on the belt. The knowledge is on your heart. but the belt is a representation of your hard work. It's a representation of your journey on the martial arts. So sometimes and it's a sign for people that don't practice martial arts. That's a sign for them. you know as soon as you come to a martial arts school, and if you see them with a white belt, they have been practicing not that long. But if you see them with a black belt, that at least they have practiced for a couple of years. So yes, that's my interpretation of that's how I care for my sash or my belt.
How do you see your martial arts journey continuing?
Well, um like I always have said to my students, the hardest thing in martial arts, or the hardest thing in everything, is to start. The easiest thing is to quit. So I see myself still striving. I want to keep doing martial arts until I'm old and decrepit and I cannot move. It's really motivating to see my martial art brothers that they don't give up, they keep moving. And that's exactly what martial arts teaches you if you really emphasize in martial arts. um Sometimes some of us, we are addicted to the martial arts. We come home and we see a martial art movie, we turn the channel and we try to look for something that it has to go with martial arts. Others, they don't have that type of mentality. But yes, my thought is, hopefully, if the Lord gives me the opportunity for me to be teaching, for me to be spreading the art, and to be able to find disciples, because that's the most important thing. When you find disciples, to a certain point you become immortal. You have a legacy, and that's exactly what I'm looking for. Yes.
What advice do you have for martial artists?
For the people that just barely starting, for the people that already started practicing martial arts
Just in general.
in general. Well, that's kind of why, though, because let's say if you have somebody that is just barely going to start martial arts, I would suggest first to shop around, to look around to see if the instructor matches your energy, and if that's what you want to practice. And the reason that I say this is, though, because back in the day, the instructors used to pick the students. Nowadays is differently. Nowadays the student has the luxury of going and picking the school they want to join in. So if you are that type of martial artist, I suggest first for you to shop around, to look around, to ask a lot of questions. The more questions you know exactly where you're going to be coming from. That way you can understand the art that you're practicing. Now, if you already started practice martial arts, and this is what I recommend to my students. Number one, be true to themselves. Number two, be honest and loyal to their stances, to their school, to their style. And then after that, to go and explore. This is very important, though, because if you get to explore, especially nowadays, if you get to explore other arts, it gives you the opportunity for you to grow as a human being. Sometimes the old school, the teachers didn't let the students go and practice other arts. They wanted to practice just one particular art, and that's it. But nowadays, society has evolved, and I think it's important, once you dominate your system that you practice, one that you have learned the school that you're doing, to go out there and experiment. And not to compare, though, because it's everything is on the interpretation of the art. I think to go over there and experiment, to see something else, and maybe you will find other treasures that you can put in your toolbox when it comes to martial arts.
Any final thoughts?
Well, I have a lot of thoughts, but I don't have enough time. But what I do want to say, though, is that you guys have been doing great. You guys are killing it out there on the tournaments. I see you guys on all the pictures that your instructor puts up there. And I was telling him the other day, he called me, a matter of fact, a couple of weeks ago, to scold me. Angel, when are you going to get back to the tournaments and so on and so forth? And I said to him, the last time he called me, I said to him, man, you guys are killing it out there. This is really motivating, really inspiring for me, for my students. I like to see you guys evolved, and when I say that the instructor sometimes has to wake up the master within, that's exactly what your instructor is doing to you guys. You guys are becoming little masters over there. So keep practicing hard. Don't stop. And if you stop, just stop to get a little bit of breather, but keep moving forward, Gato.
Thank you again for sharing your memories with me and the entire UK family.
No, thank you for giving me the opportunity and time.